Well, welcome to another episode of WFCF TV, the Florida Chamber Foundation's video podcast. I'm Dale Brill, president of the foundation, and I'm sitting here with good personal friend and professional colleague Chris Hart IV. You may recognize Chris from his role recently as the interim director of OTED, while simultaneously serving as his continued role as the president and CEO of Workforce Florida. Chris, thanks for making time to visit with us.
Oh, absolutely.
And let's start out with that. I think there are some folks that might be wondering that they're dialed in at all, this transition between what the governor's office is doing with OTED, this Department of Economic Opportunity, also known as DEO. Public service is both roles now. What's Chris Hart doing now, and what's the focus?
Okay, well, life for Chris Hart is great these days. As you said, I had two jobs over the last 18 months, Office of Tourism, Trade, and Economic Development, but simultaneously President and CEO of Workforce Florida. There was a third job that popped in there during that time period because of the unfortunate oil spill near catastrophe that we had that had to be addressed. And that took a substantial amount of time, obviously last summer. But all of that, interestingly enough, was instructive to the new system that Governor Rick Scott has put in place now. As I took on the dual-hatted role with workforce and OTED responsibilities, and then even with the oil spill, it was instructive in that we realized it would really be better if we had a single point of contact for businesses, anyone really interested in starting a company, keeping their company here, growing their company, or even coming to the state of Florida, which is always good. So we found out single point of contact would be preferable for the state. We also realized that when I had Workforce here and OTED here, and OTED of course with Space Florida and Visit, Enterprise Florida, Black Business Investment Board, other entities that were kind of housed within that umbrella, that it makes an awful lot of sense when you're dealing with the ultimate customer, and that is business, that if you have that single point of contact, that they also have a seamless system that's backing them up, so that as they sit across the table from business and talk about that business's needs, that we can deliver most effectively. So we had a single point of contact, we had a single entity, and then it also became clear that when you're sitting down there having that conversation with business, that if you can access the funds that you need to access for whatever program or initiative, or even in the case of community affairs, helping out with any type of land planning, that if you can do that and meet that business's needs and create some certainty in the marketplace, which of course businesses, we know you crave that, the more of that we could give you with this single fund, the better off that we would be. So it was a unique vantage point. I think it's helpful and instructive to our, now 6 months into the job, governor. He has tapped, I think, an extraordinarily strong individual to lead that new system. Our new Secretary of Commerce, Grace Swope. Excited to work with him. The new director of what's called DEO, Department of Economic Opportunity, which is where all of that is housed, and then Workforce Florida. So anyway, yeah, it was a good time. But life is clearly better when you're down to one job, even though it's as demanding as it is over on the workforce front, which I know we'll talk about here in a bit.
Absolutely. And you did mention Gray. We're going to bring Gray in and talk to him in a future podcast. And you and I recently spent quite a bit of time with him down in the Highlands County, the Florida Heartlands Regional Economic Development Initiative, hosted with the Central Florida Regional Planning Council and another partner, the Workforce Florida Board out of that area, brought a gathering of folks together to talk about economic development. It was good to see Gray down there. We talked about some of this role. You highlighted a couple of things that in Highlands County in that meeting that I think bears repeating, and that is the importance and the focus on workforce.
Okay.
The 6 Pillars program that everybody's familiar with, that framework. It's no accident that we start with talent supply and education.
That's right.
From your perspective, why is, if you will, talent supply that first pillar?
Okay. Well, let me tell you just a little bit, for those that are watching this, a little bit about Workforce Florida.
Please.
And because I think it'll be instructive to your question. If you think about, and you have to go back a ways, if you think about the welfare reform back in the 90s, around 1996, it was recognized that we wanted to take people from welfare into work. So we had to have this welfare transition. And there was a great debate throughout the United States on the best way to do that. And it was universally recognized, and you got down to both parties, and we had Bill Clinton in the White House, we had Republicans controlling Congress, and what they talked about is it makes sense to us from, let's call it a direct benefit standpoint, so taxes in, taxes out, if you will, that when we can take people off of welfare into work, we can increase the tax base, and that's good. Well, when you look at economic development priorities, you're really looking at how do we grow our economy, and from a governmental standpoint, how do I increase the tax base, right? So it's good for everybody. The free market economy is working, it's great, people are employed, they're doing good things. So on the workforce side that was born out of that, the state of Florida and the state of Texas, we're the only two states that looked at it this way. We said, look at what the feds are doing. We think that there's some real magic in that because they've talked about creating these one-stop opportunities and tagging to the marketplace. We said, we think we can take those dollars that are coming from the feds, because remember, we're still a donor state, so we wanted to get this right. By donor state, state of Florida gives more money to the federal government than we receive back. So we want to maximize those funds that we have. So we said, through this state law, let's tag workforce development, welfare, transition, but make it a larger play. So it's workforce development tagged to economic development, tagged to what we need to do in education, but all of that tagged to the marketplace with the business serving as the ultimate client. So that's the quick tutorial. There's a lot of pieces in that. And so when you talk about talent supply and education being the first pillar, I would definitely agree with that statement. When you look at workforce development and economic development, and I like to tell this story, but I'm going to tell it very, very quickly. There have been meetings around the state of Florida where we had an opportunity to poll a lot of folks, probably a lot of folks that are listening today, and we asked two questions a little bit differently. The first one, what is and has been Florida's competitive advantage? And that was, of course, geography, location. I mean, Florida always has been. I mean, look at St. Augustine, how long it's been in existence. But then the question was, what should Florida's key competitive advantage be? And that gets you back to your talent supply and education, because the answer in all of these various events around the state with hundreds of people participating is talent and education. So it was a recognition by those participants, and I would say in my days over at Enterprise Florida and then at OTED, backed up by actual projects we've been involved in, where businesses tell us that they need a talented workforce in order for them to stay in Florida, grow in Florida, or come to Florida. So as you're looking at how to create vibrant communities, you're looking at how to help build and create wealth, clearly talent and supply seems to be the right direction to go in. And I'm not just saying that because I'm over at Workforce.
No, well, and in fact, you're not just saying it. And if you look, again, historically, you talked about your time at Enterprise Florida, but before that as a two-term legislator out of the Tampa area who voluntarily left to the political world, I'll probably argue for now, to come on the more the public-private side and get some of that work done. You virtually designed the very system that you are now helping navigate. And so, again, I think that when you can talk to us about those details, and again, I wish we had more time. You're the guy to talk to about how that was set up and what it's doing today. I want to go back to the thing we talked about with Gray Swope and the activity.
Sure.
Even though you're at Workforce, by no stretch of the imagination are you separated from economic development. And I think that integration that Governor Scott is doing and what Gray is doing as the Secretary of Commerce. Can you speak briefly to, I'm hearing stuff about a plan and this concept of Team Florida, and I know the legislature has an expectation that there will be a business plan being developed for how we're going to execute economic development. Very exciting stuff. What can you share with us?
It is. No, I'm happy to share that. Clearly, it all begins with vision, and from there you have to set up your goals and then your strategies and your measures, and that's one reason we're so excited to partner with the Florida Chamber Foundation and the Florida Chamber is you all are clearly doing this right, and you have been for a long time, Dale. And before I answer directly where we are, I just kind of want to give a quick lesson to the folks that are out there in terms of where we were. Here's the way it kind of was working, and it was working pretty well in the state of Florida, but it was sort of that opportunity to move from good to great. And we looked at the Florida Chamber Foundation, the Florida Council of 100. In other words, the various business entities that are out there that would help us understand what the aspirations for Florida are, or were, are, and should be. And then from there, Enterprise Florida would build their roadmap for Florida's future. That was technically the strategic plan for the state. Then at Workforce Florida, we would then look to that roadmap that was looking at the aspirational goals that you all set forth, and then we would design our strategic plan with all the requisite vision, goals, strategies, measures in there, and that was how we were gaining alignment. And as I said, that was good, but it wasn't great, and here's why. Workforce Florida was doing that, Visit Florida was doing that, Space Florida was doing that, but we weren't necessarily doing that the way we're doing it now. So just last week, this was probably one of the most exciting non-reported events in the entire state of Florida. We had a meeting where we had invited Florida Council 100, we had the Florida Chamber Foundation there, we had Visit Florida, Space Florida, Enterprise Florida, Workforce Florida, Department of Transportation, the Florida Housing Finance Corporation, the Institution for Commercialization and Public Research, Black Business Investment Board, the Ports Council, Sports Foundation, Film Commission, all coming together for the first time, mind you, to talk about the creation of a single statewide strategic plan that gives us true alignment all the way from the top, the aspirational goals, vision, goals, strategies, measures, linking us all the way throughout, and we're even contemplating at the regional level, how do we build that regional link? And then we take it out horizontally to ensure that through this single strategic plan, we're then building a business plan that allows us to operate seamlessly so that we can deliver to the marketplace that which the marketplace is demanding. So I appreciate you bringing that up. I think, as I said, that's going to reap huge dividends for the state of Florida in years to come.
Chris, we're going to take a longer time just to warn our viewers that again, there's so much to talk about and the opportunity to sit down with you. So I want to ask you a couple more questions.
Okay.
Teeing off on that.
All right, sure.
This plan is coming together. Again, the foundation and the chamber are very happy to contribute the work of the Six Pillars Caucus system into that, feeding it. Again, by no stretch of the imagination is it a wholesale, okay, we'll take that, and that's now Governor Scott's plan. But again, even as candidate Scott, and his publication and producing the 777 plan, the role and the overlap and the consistency between the 6 pillars and the 777 plan can be demonstrated. What I'm curious about is how do we measure this, right? So you've alluded to measurement, the Florida scorecard. Can it play a role, or what is your view of the importance or the role of metrics as we plan?
Oh, wow. Yeah. Metrics, measures, highly important. And I'm going to demonstrate just how important those measures are. We're doing something at Workforce Florida called Target Industry Cluster Task Forces. And those are tied to the 6 target industries that Enterprise Florida has identified that we need to grow in order to diversify Florida's economy. These meetings are invaluable, and we've started with 2 because of resources and timing, obviously. But the 2 that we started with are aviation, aerospace, and clean tech. In the aviation and aerospace, had an opportunity to ask these C-level individuals from this industry about the new system and about these plans, and specifically what their expectations are for where we're going. And to your question directly, I found this absolutely fascinating. They said, if you get those measures right, which we believe you will by doing what we just described in terms of this plan and how we're aligning, if you get these measures right, you can actually hand those to Gray Swope and his organization that's responsible for sales and marketing. You can market to business with these measures, because in business we know that you get what you measure. And so these measurements that we're talking about highly correlated to whether or not we're going to be successful.
That's great.
Yeah,
that's great.
It's exciting.
You also mentioned earlier multiple organizations. I think that the audience may be hearing things about, so we've got a 6-pillar caucus system and the strategic plan, the 20-year plan that the foundation is driving. You've got the Gray Swope as Secretary of Commerce working with you and multiple entities to create a shorter term, also strategic plan, but a business plan kind of woven in there as well for what do we do with economic development. We've got the Florida 8
Okay.
And I want to give you an opportunity if you could share with us some exciting things that are happening in Florida 8, because I think there might be some confusion out there. Some folks saying, well, wait a minute, I'm hearing the Florida 8, how is that different in competing with the 6 pillars? And, well, my perspective, not at all.
Right.
What's your take and what can you share about the Florida 8?
Okay, yeah. I was talking about the Workforce Florida strategic plan, and one of the areas that's been very instructive for where we're going now is that our board at Workforce Florida, very forward thinking, said we don't simply want to put together a 5-year strategic plan that we set on a shelf. So we had to take that strategic plan to an operational plan, and then we had to identify projects that we would build off of that plan. And in other words, how are you going to deliver what you said you're going to deliver? So as one of the outcomes of that, we have the Florida 8. The Florida 8 is an initiative of Workforce Florida. But again, as I was describing that alignment, if you think about the alignment, we talked about the 6 pillars and we talked about the strategic plans, and then we aligned to the roadmap. We were looking all along then to what do we do to support where the state is going. And this state understands that in order for us to compete and grow and be successful, that we need the best coming out of our regions that we possibly can. What you all understand, I believe, is that you have to have common language, common definitions, common frameworks, common way of talking to one another, especially in a state as diverse as the state of Florida, where you go from Pensacola down to the last little key, and we're different. I mean, we're a microcosm of where the United States will be. I mean, we're already there. So your 6 pillars gives us a framework for that focused conversation as to where we need to go. The Florida 8 helps regions, because it's region specific, it helps regions collaborate, bring those various players together, fund those facilitation opportunities, look at how we retain what we have, how we grow what we have, and we think that if they do that in the context of the 6 pillars, that we'll all be well served, and we'll keep that alignment, especially as we're building the new plan and the new strategies, and that we're moving forward with what should be combined complementary measures.
That's fantastic. 30 seconds left. Chris, what haven't I asked you that folks out there ought to know? Just again, the insight that you might provide of what's happening, what might happen.
Okay.
Any insight you can share?
All right. Well, first off, 30 seconds is clearly not long enough for me.
I understand.
I would say it's really this. Florida's getting it right. We're already a national leader. For us here in Workforce, we were excited to be recognized by a national partner of yours, the National Chamber Foundation and the United States Chamber, showing that Florida's workforce system in the area of placements, which is a very, very, very important measure. Are you placing people that you are serving? That Florida's #1 workforce system. But I want to leave you with this. This is probably the most exciting time in the state of Florida, and we're talking a lot about collaboration, and collaboration is key, but it's not easy. But if we have the ability in the state of Florida to do everything we're talking about. This state is truly great. We need to just simply commit ourselves to it, and then because it is tough, have the discipline to carry this all the way through. And I think we're going to do that. And so, Dale, thanks.
Thank you, Chris.
Thanks for all that y'all are doing.
So, Chris, I want to thank you again for the time, the insight that you provide, and again the experience that you have. Appreciate again the friendship, but also the camaraderie and the emphasis on this is difficult work. This idea of collaboration, whether it's regionalism or on a county basis or even within municipalities. If it were easy, it would have been done before now. And again, hopefully we've got the right place and the right systems, right processes in place. So again, thank you for your time. Appreciate your spending a little bit of extra time with us here on WFCF, the video podcasting program of the Florida Chamber Foundation. I'm Dale Brill. Want to thank you for spending time with us again, and we'll see you next episode.